Welcome. Honorable guests, good morning. Welcome to the Joint SDG Fund side event at the 2022 Sustainable Development Goal Investment Fair. We are here on the sidelines of the ECOSOC Financing Forum on Financing for Development. And our session today is the expansion of the Joint SDG Fund's catalytic investment portfolio and what that can mean for the SDGs. My name is Lisa Kerbiel. I'm honored to be here as the head of the Secretariat of the Joint SDG Fund. And my role now is to welcome all of you sincerely for your participation, for listening in, for being a part of the solution. And also, I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker, Undersecretary General Ms. Cristina Duarte, Special Advisor on Africa to the United Nations. Undersecretary General, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, and thank you very much. Excellencies, dear colleagues, all protocols observed. It is a pleasure to be today with you at this event on the expansion of the Joint SDG Fund's Catalytic investment portfolio. As you already know, the world and the SDGs are in a crisis. Even before the COVID-19 outbreak, many parts of the world, and particularly Africa, were not in track. In order to address this challenge, the Secretary General highlighted that business as usual is not enough and called on us, United Nations entities, member states, and stakeholders to approach recovery in a new way. If there is a sector that needs to strictly follow this call from the Secretary General, is the financing for development. What does this new way involve? A new mindset calls for a new strategic thinking that guides all development actors to identify the drivers, the enablers, and the game changers in a very focused and surgical way. Also, the new mindset calls for a new starting point from a financing for development standpoint. It has often been said that one of the main problems of development financing is the scarcity of resources. Allow me to say that I disagree. There is enough money in the world to finance the implementation of the 2030 agenda. The problem is not the absence of funds. It is that money is not being used as it should, and it does not benefit whom it should from a geographic, sectoral, and income perspective. In this puzzle, should be clear to everybody that the complementarity between public financing and private financing. It cannot be a mutual crowding out approach, but the opposite, a mutual crowding in approach. The challenge is to mobilize private sector funds, making SDG investments attractive. In this context, the risking.
Je moet registreren.
In this context, the risking is the magic words. The risking involves, above all, the identification and the activation of risk mitigants. And some of these risk mitigants involve structural changes, structural reforms to be delivered by policymakers. It can be stated upfront that the risking involves much more than buying insurance, entering the derivatives markets, entering the hedge instruments world, or hiring a financial consulting firm. In the case of Africa, allow me to mention three important mitigants. First, strong country systems, particularly domestic resource mobilization systems. This involves creating solid policy frameworks, including integrated national financing frameworks that lay out the country's financial strategy to raise resources, manage risks, and achieve SDG priorities. Second mitigant, a better and fair integration in the global value chains by African countries and the active promotion of regional value chains. And these two mitigants lead to the third one, the third mitigant, predictable and consistent cash flows. We need to bear in mind that private capital searches for predictable and consistent cash flows, and only market integration generates them. We all agree that unlocking financing for development is the game changer. And the drivers are the risked investments. In this context, SDG Fund is ready to play the enabler role for this to happen. I wouldn't even use the expression, if you allow me. SDG Fund can be a valuable de-risker. SDG Fund brings value that goes beyond money. SDG Fund makes things happen through the risking. SDG Fund opens channels so that money flows to SDG investments. An enabler that plays a broker role, unleashing financing for development as a game changer. The programs in this portfolio, in the SDG Fund portfolio, use the support from the fund and the power of the United Nations to bring in financing from all possible and credible sources, banks, philanthropies, DFIs, private investments, and many more. With just 10 programs and a budget of $140 million, this portfolio is expected to leverage $5 billion in financing for the SDGs. This is just a sample of what can realize by changing the approach and promoting catalytic interventions. I'm particularly proud to introduce today's session because 3 of the 5 programs presented today are in Africa, and also because 3 of these 5 programs focus on energy solutions. These programs are bringing these critical energy sources to vulnerable households within an energy for all imperative. This is not a small endeavor. Over 600 million African people do not have access to electricity yet, placing energy investment among the drivers as far as recovery is concerned. This is why we need the kind of catalytic projects that the Joint SDG Fund promotes. Besides Africa, you are going to hear how the power of blended finance can be brought to agriculture value chains from Suriname in Latin America, about blended finance in adolescent sexual and reproductive health care from North Macedonia in Europe and from UNFPA. I would like to conclude underscoring the huge potential of SDG Fund as a de-risker broker to make things happen in the financing for development field. Thank you, Lisa. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Undersecretary General, Ms. Cristina Duarte. Inspiring remarks to start us off this morning. I'm now delighted to invite Ms. Eva Del Hoyo, Director General for Multilateral and European Development Policies from the Government of Spain. DG Del Hoyo, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Lisa. Good morning, all. Thanks for the floor. Let me first of all thank you and thank the SDG Fund for inviting Spain and me to participate in this event. The fund is something we hold really close to our at heart. I am very pleased to be here in the fund's expansion to 5 new markets across the globe with additional investments to rescue the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in this week that we are also celebrating the Finance for Development Forum. Spain has played a fundamental role in the constitution, maintenance, and evolution of the SDG Joint Fund, and is the second largest contributor, accounting for 17 of total contributors from 2017 to early 2022. The fund is of great strategic importance for the Spanish cooperation, and I think we've shown it through the time. Please Let me first start by referring to what we value most of the fund. The Joint SDG Fund is positively contributing to the UN reform. It has enhanced cross-organizational and cross-sectoral synergies and reduced duplication with other UN country team management. Its resources are guided by the principles of national ownership that we value a lot in support of national priorities, and these priorities are embedded in the new generation of UNDAPs and country-led integrated national frameworks, with a whole of government approach, including national determined contribution and others. In fact, Spain was a strong supporter of devoting an important part of the initial budget of the fund to the development of INFFs. Thanks to this momentum, such integrating financing frameworks are being developed in over 70 countries around the world. We are also very proud of the achievements of the fund on integrating policy solutions for social protection to leave no one behind in 39 countries around the world. A new era for social protection systems would be a foundation for peaceful societies and other measures to leave no one behind and eradicate extreme poverty across the world. We would like social protection to remain a core priority of the fund, as well as link other investments to social protection and just transitions. Finally, the fund has expanded its activity to impact its investment, and although the Catalytic investment portfolio has been in place for less than a year, it has already shown and achieved meaningful results. As the UN Special Envoy stated, the fund is in a position to bridge the gap in giving an impact investment. Kenya, Madagascar, North Macedonia, Suriname, and Zimbabwe present today in this launching event and have been selected from proposals submitted by over 100 countries as being the most impactful and investment ready to take a public step. Our wish for the future of these impact investments are achieve implementation of the Leave No One Behind principle, ownership by the beneficiary of funds, achieve financial and development additionality, and have integrated frameworks that show the way forward. On the fund side, we would like to see focused thematic priorities on what the fund does best based on its experience of previous years. We are aware of the challenges faced by blended finance in achieving the SDGs, and that this fund is a pioneer in this field. But we are sure that the impact investments undertaking will serve as a reference for other institutions as an example of good practice. Many thanks, and I wish you all a fruitful meeting.
Thank you so much, Ms. Del Hoyo. Really appreciate your intervention and, of course, the leadership and support of the government of Spain to the Joint SDG Fund. Your leadership sets the bar very high for other member states, and we truly, truly appreciate it. Colleagues, it's now my delight to invite Dr. Diene Quieta, UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director of Programs for United Nations Population Fund. Dr. Quieta will provide remarks and also support us in moderating our panel with honorable guests from the governments of Kenya, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, North Macedonia, and Suriname. Dr. Quieta, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Liza. Excellencies, dear USG and sister, dear colleagues and partner, all protocol observed, good morning. I am delighted to be here to moderate this distinguished panel addressing a very important and urgent issue as we seek and identify concrete financing concrete financing solution to the growing Sustainable Development Goals financing gap and the far-reaching implication for achievement of the SDG by 2030. This is the decade of action. The Joint SDG Fund catalyzes and blends public and private capital to create options for financing the SDGs. The current portfolio activated 114 million of US dollar of public resources in 10 countries to leverage $5 billion. This portfolio supports 4 impact areas aligned with the transition that our economies and societies needs to embrace to achieve the SDGs. These are food systems, energy and climate, the blue economy, and social impact. Today, we are here to discuss the expansion of the fund's catalytic investment portfolio, and more specifically, the experience of the government of North Macedonia, represented by His Excellency, Mr. Minister in charge of Economic Affairs, Suriname, represented by His Excellency Ambassador Ramdi, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business, International Cooperation. Madagascar will be represented by Honorable Ramoroson, Minister of Energy and Hydrocarbon. His message will be delivered through message video. Zimbabwe will be represented by Honorable Minister Soda, Minister for Energy and Power Development. And Kenya, represented by Dr. Aman, Health Chief Administrative Secretary. All the exciting initiatives we will hear about today, we need to take into account the gender dimension. And at the heart of the gender dimension is the ability of women and girls to decide when, if, and how many children to have, to be able to exercise their right to bodily autonomy, and to be empowered to contribute fully to the development agenda. The economic and social benefits of doing so are really clear. Before we start with the honorable member of the panel, I'm proud to say that UNFPA is at the forefront in supporting the expansion of initiative in Kenya under the overall leadership of the country. I know Kenya will speak a little bit later, but we are really proud to know that Kenya will use 7 million from the SDG Joint Fund to set up a development impact bond to finance the integration of public health services into an expansion of innovative digital sexual and reproductive health platform for adolescent girls titled In Their Heads. But I will let them talk about that a little bit later on. Today's event showcases the potential of joint collaboration across public and private sectors, and it demonstrates that the achievement at the Agenda 2030 is within our collective reach. Let me conclude by saying that I'm very much looking forward to our deliberation on this critical subject. I will now give the floor first for their initial remark to North Macedonia, represented by His Excellency, Mr. Pitiki, Deputy Prime Minister in charge of Economic Affairs. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear representatives of the government of Spain, Kenya, Madagascar, Suriname and Zimbabwe, dear representatives of the SDG Fund, dear partners and colleagues. More than at any time in the past, the government of North Macedonia is committed to green transition and climate action, which will address some of the country's most pressing challenges, such as dependence on energy imports, predominantly coal-based domestic energy production, and air pollution. We are committed to reducing pollution, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and greening our economy, particularly by reducing our dependence on fossil fuels and using energy more efficiently in both the industrial and residential sectors. And we have demonstrated this in our actions. In 2020 alone, energy generation from the renewable resources increased by 827 megawatt, a 10.1% increase from 2019. In 2021, several sizable new investments in renewable energy production have started. 3 new wind parks, as well as a new solar power plants. These are important steps showing our commitment, but these are only steps focused on large-scale energy infrastructure. More needs to be done to ensure greater investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency by all relevant actors, including business and residential sectors. North Macedonia has initiated an ambitious decarbonization pathway that is a solid basis for accelerating renewable energy investments in the country, with the most ambitious national determined contribution among our countries in the region, targeting a 51% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 compared to 1990 level. The transition to clean energy requires significant investment. Financing requirements for North Macedonia, the achievement of the enhanced national determined contribution exceeds 25 billion euro through 2030, of which approximately 24 billion in the energy sector alone. To achieve this, we have explored new and diversified financial instruments and blended finance to attract more investments into the green agenda and enable faster energy transformation. The program that I will now showcase will support this ambition by developing a new financial instrument. The Green Financing Facility, GFF, is among the first financial mechanism in the country that will enable blending of international, government and private capital towards a common cause to improve access to affordable green financing for small and medium enterprises and households for renewable energy and energy efficiency investments. With a joint SDG fund and the government of North Macedonia's seed funding, the Green Financing Facility expects to leverage significant funding from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and 8 private banks from the country, resulting in total volume of $47 million. The Green Financing Facility will attempt to fill the gap and accelerate adoption of renewable energy and energy efficiency solutions for over 650 small and medium enterprises and more than 100 underserved household clients in North Macedonia, so that more segments of society, including the unusual suspects, such as households with people with disability, woman-headed households, remittance recipient households, households with the returning migrants, or single-parent households can also join early on and benefit from the energy transition. The financing mechanism sets an example of how various partners combine their expertise together and blended finance to accelerate climate action. The Green Financing Facility is a result of the strong collaboration of the government's team that I lead with Ministers of Finance, Environment and Economy, and the UN team in North Macedonia, bringing together the expertise from the United Nations Development Programme, the International Organization for Migration, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, and the UN Residence Coordinator's Office, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, private banks from North Macedonia, and the SDG Fund. This facility will encourage more appealing renewable energy and energy efficiency investments in new, innovative, and marketable solutions, while increasing the overall awareness and fostering a culture of responsible energy production and use. In closing, let me thank the Joint SDG Fund and its donors for the support to North Macedonia's joint program and for stimulating the development of financial instruments that have the potential to advance the SDG financing agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. This is so uplifting. This partnership on the green financing, the partnership that you are co-creating with the government members, with the private bank, with the European Bank and the European Economic Commission and the UN is just uplifting. We'll come back to you with questions. Thank you so very much. Now we give the floor to Suriname, to His Excellency Ambassador Ramdi, Minister of Foreign Affairs. The floor is yours, Your Excellency.
Good morning. On behalf of Minister Albert Ramdin, I have to apologize. I listed a note that he cannot attend the meeting because he has been delayed in another meeting. So if you allow me, or I think it's better to give the others the floor first. I'll see if we can manage to get in a little bit later. My apologies.
Very good. No worry. I'll go by I'll give you the floor later. So Madagascar will join now by his Honorable Minister of Energy and Hydrocarbons. The minister will be joining through video messaging.
Elaine, am I the only one who cannot hear the?
We are trying to fix the problem. 1 second, Lisa.
Honorable Ministers, dear friends from UNIDO, UNDP, SDG Funds, hi everyone. My name is Andri Ramaruson, the Minister of Energy and Hydrocarbons of Madagascar. Madagascar, the island in the south of Africa, not the movie. I'm very honored to speak at this important event for the investment of SDGs and for the energy sector, in particular for Madagascar, where the challenges are very, very high. Indeed, in 2022, 80% of the total energy consumption in the country remain largely dominated by biomass, mainly used for cooking. The rate of access to an electrical grid is only about 16%. However, the country has an enormous, diversified and well-distributed potential for the development of renewable energies such as solar, hydro and wind power, which are just waiting to be exploited. In order to achieve its commitment to this sector, the government has set itself the following 5-year objectives. The first one, to improve the rate of access to electricity at a socially acceptable price to 50%. The second one, to double electricity production capacity up to 800 megawatts, mainly from renewable energy sources. These are ambitious objectives and the deadline is very close. Yes, I agree with you. But let me say to you, it's possible. It's possible because you are here and we can work together. Of course, many efforts have already been undertaken. The energy sector has been transformed over the past 5 years and is now very dynamic, with a diversification and increase of private companies oriented towards renewable energy solutions. This has been facilitated by import incentives like tax reduction and duty exemptions for renewable, of course, energy technologies. Despite these measures, access to appropriate financing is currently one of the major obstacles to the development of the sector. Subsidies are generally not sufficient. Loans available on the national market are still very expensive, with interest rates around 15%, and there is almost no loan guarantee available. Thus, it's now essential to have diversified and adapted financial instruments in order to increase access to sustainable energy through the promotion of public-private partnerships. That is why we have initiated a joint proposal that has just been approved by the Joint SDG Fund in 2022 to support access to a sustainable energy by improving the financial ecosystem. I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Joint SDG Fund and the United Nations, in particular to the UN Resident Coordinator in Madagascar, in the person of Mr. Issa Sanogo, UNDP, UNIDO, and UN CDF. This joint program presented by Madagascar will focus in electrical services, energy efficiency, and why not clean cooking sectors, and targets 3 complementary components, providing technical assistance for the creation of sovereign fund, for which the government of Madagascar has already initiated the creation and which will offer adapted financial services for structuring large-scale projects. To set up financial de-risking facility that will offer diversified financial support in the form of grants, loan and loan guarantees for medium-sized projects that are ready to be financed. To set up also a sustainable energy incubator to support national early-stage companies and consolidate their models and business plans in order to present them to investors. The 3 components will be implemented with several other partners, national and international. To conclude, I would like to thank the audience and all the other participants for the kind attention, and I invite all potential investors to join the existing actors in Madagascar to support the sustainable energy sector for the benefit of the population, and why not, for you too. Together, we will make a difference. Thank you from Madagascar.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, and I'm sure USG Duarte and DG Del Hoyo will agree that electricity is absolutely key to development everywhere. Now, we are going to give the floor to Honorable Minister Soda from Zimbabwe, Minister of Energy and Power Development. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Can you unmute yourself, Your Excellency? We can't hear you very well.
I suppose
We can't hear you, Your Excellency. Hello? Probably connection problem. Honorable Minister, are you back? Someone, the technical side, could check if Excellency is online.
Maybe perhaps as we're checking, Dr. Kieto, we could go to the next speaker and then we can loop back.
So, yes.
Perfect.
Then I go to Miss Bidia Bisuman, Senior Advisor to the Minister. Are you ready? Minister Soda, are you ready to speak?
yes, thank you very much. I think you can now hear me. Let me give the perspective of the Zimbabwean energy environment. Currently, Zimbabwe is generating electricity which is inadequate in terms of what we require to supply all the sectors of the economy. In terms of the actual figures, our current demand for electricity gets up to 1,700 megawatts of about 1,350. And we are having a deficit of around 350 to about 400 megawatts every day. And responding to the question which reads, what are the key challenges constraining increase in power development in Zimbabwe, and how does the launch of the SDG Fund come in to address these challenges? Yes, Zimbabwe, we have more than 90 licensed investments with a capacity of around 7,000 megawatts that could have been developed if investors were proceed the project. The 90 licensed investments, 70 on green energy or on renewable energy. The challenges that we see as a nation currently are on inadequate maintenance of our electricity equipment. Equipment was sold way back in the early 1980s, and which have now gone beyond their expected life, especially those that were being fired on coal. And over the years, there hasn't been adequate maintenance of the equipment. The equipment is now from time to time coming out and giving a lot of problems, outages, and in many instances, we are resorting to importation of electricity. And whenever we don't get adequate imports of electricity, we are resorting to load shedding. Some of the problems that we are encountering is the inability to secure adequate funding for the new projects that I've spoken about. To say we have around 90 investments, but most of the investors are not forthcoming in terms of developing their projects, especially getting to financial closure. They actually find it difficult to get to financial closure. Some other problems are to do with climate change, which is actually to our hydro power station, which is Kariba, a power station here in Zimbabwe. Then we also have challenges on lack of technical expertise, especially for the investors who have indicated their intention to develop their projects. It seems they are actually failing to come up with proposals that can attract some finances in Zimbabwe. We are also finding issues on viability gaps, especially for off-grid solar systems to deploy in our rural areas. There is a gap which is being which is being identified by quite a number of some investors. We also have the issues of a high cost of borrowing because of the perceptions that most of financiers or funders are having on Zimbabwe. The issue of currencies in terms of convertibility, especially when project developers or funders would have brought in their monies from outside the country. Many times they are finding it difficult now to expatriate their proceeds for repayment of their loans, and also for the purposes of paying returns on investments. And these are the major issues that we are confronted with as a country. But now with the provision of the SDG Fund, with this, we are very grateful about this window, which we think it is going to assist, especially in the development of the projects that I've indicated to be ready, especially the 70 licensed investments in renewable energy. We think with this window, we should be able to now unlock some even local funding because of the condition that in order for the money to be accessed, there must be a component that is obtainable locally. Already, there are some institutions that have indicated their willingness to participate in this space. And we think we should be able now to have some projects progressing, especially those that were ready in terms of the feasibility studies, in terms of meeting the requirements on environmental requirements. We think this fund is going to assist much in unlocking the value or the local funding, and also to allow for progress in the development of the projects that we already have lined up. Besides the challenges that I've just spoken about, we also have problems in thefts and the vandalism of electricity infrastructure, especially which is disturbing the already established generation, transmission, and distribution systems. Of course, this might not be immediately going to be addressed through this fund that has been provided for, but through the power utility, there are some considerations to use current technologies that will be able to detect whenever there is some tampering of the electricity infrastructure. This is what we are considering to do as Zimbabwe. For now, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Thank you for this powerful message and for the work you are doing on the ground. We'll revert to you a little bit later on this renewable energy for a question. Thank you so very much. I'm going to go now back to Suriname. If you are online, Senior Advisor.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Dr. Keita, thank you very much. And
thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
And my apologies for the late arrivals of competing appointments. First of all, I want to thank you all for the opportunity which we have been awarded as Suriname to be part of this this exercise on the SDG, the Joint SDG Fund. I'd like to congratulate the SDG Fund for placing sustainable development on the agenda. In terms of the SDG in general, if I may use a moment to indicate to you, we have a national committee, a national commission on the SDGs, the implementation of the SDGs, but we work closely with the private sector and other stakeholders in the society. So we have also established a platform of all stakeholders in Suriname who could be useful in terms of execution of the SDG goals. And in this context, agriculture is for us a critical area. I'm very pleased to see that $2 million grant has been awarded to the project which we have submitted in terms of the pineapple production. I'm not sure how much you know about Suriname. Suriname is a highly green country. So this fits also in the overall portfolio of promoting green environment. We are 93% forested. The country with the largest forest coverage in the world. We are carbon negative, not carbon neutral even, but carbon negative together with Bhutan and Panama. And we want to keep it like that. It's a small population of 600,000 persons, an area of 163,000 square kilometers. So what I'm trying to indicate is we do have fertile land available for agriculture produce. And we have also certain areas that are very much adaptable, specifically to the production or the cultivation of pineapple. You will understand, I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I'm not an expert in agriculture. apart from the fact that I love pineapple. So I'm happy that pineapple will be produced and exported. I think in our development priorities, Suriname is focusing on strengthening our agricultural base. Apart from agriculture, we have tourism, the extractive industries in terms of gold mining, and also in terms of the future oil and gas. So while the future is bright, we still want to focus very much on agricultural development for two reasons. One, it is sustainable, but also environmentally friendly. So it helps us keep up our record as one of the greenest countries in the world. But apart from that, food security is important, and that goes equally for fruits and vegetables. So we see a great opportunity to utilize this skill, this available land to strengthen that capacity of exporting and for domestic use, fresh produce. We are in a Caribbean region. We don't have that much of tourism, but we have the Caribbean community of which we are part. And there is a wider market there of almost 14 to 50 million tourists coming every year into the several countries. The production of pineapple will provide opportunity for exports towards that region. And again, currently the food import bill for CARICOM is between the 5 and 6 billion US dollars. So there is an enormous market there for fresh produce, and pineapple, whether it's in its raw form as a fruit or as juice, concentrated juice with no addition of sugar, will be a welcoming addition to our export portfolio when it comes to the agricultural sector. So we are very pleased with the support, and there has been a tradition of cultivating pineapples in Suriname. And additionally, in addition to what I said earlier about the export market, but also the maintenance of our green policies, is that this project, we can engage indigenous communities because they are the one who normally have been involved in the production of pineapples, especially our Indian community has been engaged in this process. So we see an opportunity also here for inclusive development in the interior and also regional development. So from different perspective, I think this is a great choice, and I appreciate very much that the SDG Fund is going to support this. And I do hope that it will, of course, benefit all involved, the local community, it will guarantee employment, it will create opportunities for indigenous people, it will generate export earnings, but most of all, which President Santokhi has highlighted all the time for the past couple of years, is we need to go back to fresh produce and consume fresh vegetables and fresh fruits instead of all the cans and the boxes and so on. So from all these angles, I welcome the opportunity, and I do hope that we can continue on this path going forward. So thank you very much, and if there is any question, I would be, if capable, able to respond. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Honorable Minister. It's such a pleasure to listen to you, and congratulations for being carbon negative. This is so important, and for being, above all, a great ambassador for pineapple. That's, I think, is the most important thing here. I hear you. My country has pineapple, but I'm going to seek for Suriname ones. I'll come back with the question right away. Bear with me for a few minutes again. And I would like to give the floor to Kenya. If Dr. Aman is online. Dr. Aman?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation to be a part of this discussion. Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Rashid Aman. I am the Deputy Minister for Health in the Republic of Kenya. I want to extend a warm greeting from Kenya to you all, wherever you are. We as a country are very excited to be part of this fair today, in the company of great minds, sharing the common interest of mobilizing investments around the Sustainable Development Goals. I think many of you may be aware that Kenya, during the second term of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, he identified 4 areas that he wanted to focus his energies on in the last term of his period in office. These, the so-called Big 4 agenda, include health, housing, affordable housing, food security, and promoting local manufacturing. The government has put its investments and energies in trying to, in achieving the goals of this agenda. Health, of course, is one of them, and one of the strong pillars that has received a great deal of support from the government over the last 4 years. Very early on during this term, we partnered with the UN SDG Partnership Platform here, and have been working very closely with the partnership platform throughout this period, with a great deal of support from the partnership platform in addressing health issues, health problems, including the support of the partnership throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The partnership opened the health window, and I know that it has now moved on to some of the other big agenda windows. But I must want to commend the work that and the relationships that we have developed over a period of time with the partnership platform. And in fact, the realization of this development impact bond is one of the fruits of the work that we have enjoyed with the platform. I'm confident that this fair will stimulate a dynamic discourse and sharing of ideas between the various governments, private sector actors, and institutions on how we can take up the shift from funding of SDGs to financing of SDG. The government of Kenya is particularly pleased to be one of the 5 countries, together with Madagascar, North Macedonia, Suriname, and Zimbabwe, selected from a pool of over 100 countries to be a part of the Joint SDG Fund's Catalytic investment portfolio. We are particularly excited as a Ministry of Health to be working with the joint UN team comprising of the Office of the UN Resident Coordinator, the SDG Partnership Platform Kenya, UNFPA, WHO, UNAIDS, and partners such as Triggerize, COIS, and SIF to tackle the teenage pregnancy and HIV/AIDS challenges that we're dealing with among adolescent girls 15 to 19 years old. Adopting this innovative development impact bond financing mechanism, we believe will help us impactfully counter these challenges in 10 high-burden counties of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Migori, Homa Bay, Kisii, Nyamira, Bungoma, Busia, and Kakamega. Under the DIB, potential social investors are expected to come on board to pre-finance the program for a return. The program, we expect, should be able to mobilize at least $13 million additional resources in the form of outcome funding to leverage the $7 million support received from the Joint SDG Fund. By working with the joint UN team, we hope to activate new partnerships, grow the investment to over $20 million, and reach over 500,000 adolescent girls with critical services over a period of 4 years. We truly believe that focusing on adolescent girls and young women is very important and critical for our development. It is this age group and this sector of our society that is the stalwart of society, and that is the foundation of families. And it's important, therefore, that we address their needs as they grow into young women and provide all those services that they require from the state. So we are quite excited about this project because we do believe that it is going to contribute tremendously to our efforts on achieving universal health coverage for all Kenyans. We also anticipate drawing lessons on innovative financing from this project that will inform future government investments on projects of similar nature to ensure convergence and long-term sustainability. This catalytic investment from the Joint Fund will immensely contribute to one of our big 4 agenda ambitions of providing universal health coverage to all Kenyans and prioritizing those populations that tend to be left behind, such as adolescents and young people. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. This is absolutely extraordinary. The time is flying. In the chat, we have so many important information as well. And really, thank you for your inspiring talk. First, very quickly, the SDG Fund is one of the kind. And it's totally country focused, and our country team, the RCs, are at the heart of it. So we are so proud of the countries that are presented here today. Please give the right word, co-create a new partnership. But allow me as a moderator to give to our chair the floor back, since time is very flying. Liza, the floor back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kieta, and sincerest thanks and appreciation to all of our esteemed ministers and of course our senior UN colleagues to help us promote and really display the power of what the Joint SDG Fund is trying to do. It is not business as usual, colleagues. This is meant to be game-changing innovation. It's meant to bring strategic partnerships and investments where they're needed most, and to allow new investors to really be more involved in sustainable development. We really regret that we're out of time for the questions, but I hope that you had an opportunity to really think about these efforts underway in North Macedonia, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Suriname, Kenya, and how this global journey for the SDGs is spanning continents, sectors, and a very diverse group of countries, showing, displaying, underlining that no single blended finance solution fits, but together we can tailor them across the unique contexts of our globe to really make a difference. We're thrilled that this next $54 million can be contributing to these precise efforts. And it wouldn't be possible without the support of all of our member state donors and partners. So we want to also acknowledge not only the government of Spain, the government of Sweden, and all of the very, very generous donors that make this possible. We intend, of course, to keep moving this forward, to accelerating the SDGs. And while they weren't created overnight, we do want to expedite them to be moved across the line. So we ask all of you to not only help spread the word about our fund, but to keep sending in questions to help us socialize and to reach new partners across the globe. For those of you who may be available on the continent, we're delighted to also announce we will be having a SDG Africa Investment Mobilization Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, from May 24th through 26th. And we would be thrilled, of course, if any of you could participate or join us in a hybrid fashion. This is an effort to really showcase particularly the investments of the fund on the continent and how they can be examples for the world. So thank you very much again, dedicated guest speakers, panelists, honorable officials, all of the partners that have logged in today. We so appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you in other events in the FFD and beyond. All the best. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.